My name is Sam Jenks, and welcome to another episode of The Way We Source, a podcast hosted by Kodiak Hub, where we share our talks with procurement practitioners, ProcureTech leaders, experts, consultants, content gurus, and people that we find downright inspiring, diving into the role that sourcing and procurement plays in the way that we live. Today, we have the pleasure of hosting a real guru of intelligent sourcing, a digital procurement champion, the CEO of ChangePoint Group, home of amazing advisory, technology, and network brands, including mysupply and ProcureTech's network, previously known as SupplyTech's network. Our guest today, Andreas Zimmermann. Andreas, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Sam. This is really crazy hearing this. So thanks for so many flowers. I'm not sure if I really deserved it.
How did you feel being called a guru? Was it your first time, or?
Most likely, I think so. No, yeah. So thank you very much again for the compliment. I don't feel very much like a guru, but I try to do my very best, at least, to change some things.
That's what we're all doing, but it might be the first time you were called a guru, but it definitely won't be the last time, Andreas. I have a feeling. All right. Now, I would love to start with a question that we ask a lot of our guests, and it's kind of a high level question, but very interesting to understand. What exactly does sourcing and procurement mean to you?
Yeah, it basically means a lot. It means for me that my father, who was a CPO once, of course, gave me a lot of insights about sourcing, even when I was very young. And then I was not really looking into this for a long time. But basically, procurement found me, I would say. And so this is, of course, a very, very interesting area, which is hopefully sometimes really not seen that much. And I think it's good that more and more also people really give procurement and sourcing a new face. And I really love that.
Yeah, I can totally agree. And but then it's in your blood, maybe even.
Yeah, I think so. So my father also has a look on what I'm sometimes doing and seeing sometimes the presentation that I'm doing, and so far he loves it, and so maybe I'm not on the complete wrong way here.
Good to hear. Now, I'm curious, I've been following along on your journey, and you've been in this ProcureTech space for quite some time. You launched the ProcureTech's network, previously known as SupplyTech's network, which Kodiak Hub is a part of, and then launched mysupply, the AI-driven negotiation solution. I mean, you are really an entrepreneur with a capital E, Andreas. And I'm curious, what drives you? What made you start these ventures?
I was always doing something which is not there, so which is new, which is completely groundbreaking, which is sometimes really disruptive, and so this basically happened to all the things I did during the last years, especially when it comes to mysupply. Of course, doing something which is just new and which is really fresh for the market. So this, of course, drives me a lot. It's not just getting a big company established and these kind of things. I don't think for me this is that important. For me, it's really important to do something really great, what is really loved by customers, and where we don't have customers but fans. And this is what really drives me.
I like that. Not customers, but fans. But so can I ask who, for those who don't know about what you guys are doing at mysupply, would you mind just telling us a little bit for those listeners that are out there that don't know what the organization is providing to the market?
Sure. So basically with mysupply, we take care for autonomous sourcing and autonomous negotiations. So of course, this was also evolving through the days. So we started with something pretty simple. So with making it a simple e-auction suite in a way. But by doing it simple, we, of course, worked a lot on automating things. And how can you automate things the best? You put intelligence into it. And so we're coming also with mysupply quite a journey from a simple tool for doing good, let's say, negotiations, to the way we're currently really heading to is having an autonomous sourcing tool, which makes it possible to not, let's say, have any effort with especially tactical and tail spend sourcing anymore, but earning is some money with, of course, some savings at the same time, and bringing it into something which is something very different and something very new in sourcing. And so of course, it's a pleasure if we have really a chance, and also with our customers and interesting companies, to find a new way on how sourcing is done.
Fantastic insights. And another part of your kind of portfolio within the group that you're managing is, of course, the ProcureTech network. Would you mind just telling those that are out there in our listener base that don't know about that particular venture, what you guys are doing there, as you're giving a platform to quite a few startups. So I think it'd be interesting for people to hear.
Yeah. So basically, so when we started with mysupply, there was not really a lot out there. So in terms of supply techs or ProcureTech startups, so there were quite a few companies, but there was no, let's say, term for this. So it was not really something like fintechs, and so it wasn't really known. But we figured out that there's a lot, and they all have something in common. So they don't sometimes really have someone who speaks for them, and also let's say builds a network where all these startups, which have so many things in common, can exchange. And so we just started something. Hey, if there's nothing there, come on, let's get a few together and start.
Yeah.
And so basically, it turns out to get 28 startups now together, and I think we're doing good in having further growth.
And it's fantastic to highlight the fact that you guys are giving such a platform to startups that, as we were speaking about before we started this episode today, might not have the marketing budgets of a broader organization such as the Source to Pay suites.
Yes, absolutely. And so, for example, when the crisis of the Corona crisis just started, so everybody was stuck at home, or the events have been canceled. So what we basically did is, okay, come on, let's come together. We did a digital procurement event, and we had a lot of pitches. We had some CPOs around, and it was really, really, really cool event. And so we had a lot of participants those early days. So time after time, of course, digital procurement events have been quite normal. But I think we have been one of the first doing these kind of events, and also bringing startups with a very, very small budget in front of customers, which they won't see. And of course, there's so much synergies. Because there's customers looking for different areas in procurement and want to reach out to a couple of startups. And we also try to give companies a platform where they easily can find the right and, of course, good startups for their needs.
Yeah, that's fantastic what you guys are doing. I would urge anyone that's listening to this particular episode that is in the ProcureTech space, whether you're a startup or not, to go and check out the ProcureTech network. ProcureTech network, which is then one that Andreas Zimmermann has started, previously known as SupplyTech, but rebranded as ProcureTech. Now, I'm curious, Andreas, you are, like I said, an entrepreneur with a capital E. It was once said by the CEO of YouTube, Chad Hurley, to be an entrepreneur is, to some extent, a rather lonely journey. I'm curious, how do you deal with that as an entrepreneur? As I'm sure some of those that are listening in today are themselves an entrepreneur of a ProcureTech organization. And also, do you have any tips for those listeners who are listening in who might also be in a founding position of a ProcureTech venture?
Yeah, so that's not an easy question, but anyway, thanks very much. So of course, being an entrepreneur, as you know, is not really an easy task always. So it's really a difficult journey, and sometimes as an entrepreneur, you're of course very much on your own. So you need to deal with things you can't share with someone. This is just how it is. It's sometimes really difficult. So when you have a team, you can share, of course, a lot, but not everything. And of course, you need to deal with this. And you can also not talk about everything with your partner. You just don't want to make people scared sometimes, because when times get tough sometimes, and this is just normal, you just need to deal with this. But at the same time, it's an incredible pleasure to have the honor to drive things like this. And I still, if sometimes, of course, maybe not every night is the best. So sometimes I still won't miss it, because you really can change something. And so it's for me still, it's a big pleasure that I can do what I'm doing.
Yeah, I can totally agree with that. And I'm curious, as somebody that's in a startup ourselves, we feel the wins together, you feel the losses together. But circling back to the question, do you have any concrete tips that you could give to anyone that's out there that's either in a startup or in a founding position themselves?
So I just received a tip, let's say, on my own a few days ago,
Okay.
of someone who is, of course, who went a bit further down the road and turned his startup into a very, very successful business, and just told me that I can sleep for 2 years right now without any problems. and he told me, just never give up, just keep on fighting, and do not hesitate. Always, let's say, keep the journey, and of course keep your road. Of course, this doesn't mean you're not pivoting sometimes if you feel this is not going to work exactly as you planned it. And
Yeah.
of course, you need to be flexible in what you're doing also. But I think on the path that you're having, so you should really not hesitate. And yeah, you really should give full force to get your road done, and find, of course, also the right people around. And I
Right.
think this is for me also very important. So sometimes, so when I founded mysupply, I started it on my own. So because I just didn't found anyone who I said, okay, could be a kind of a co-founder or someone maybe on C level. But it takes a while, but then you will find the right people. And now, of course, we have been able to grow the team. I have a great new colleague who is also running the company with me together. Also with a lot of startup experience. And this is really cool. You will find the people on your way. But of course, going the way with the wrong people will get you nowhere. And of course, so be careful who's around, who you hire, and of course, who you make shareholder of your company. I think this is for me also a bit key, because it could be sometimes a bit easier in the beginning, but it's getting much more difficult in a while when you have the wrong people around. Then you have really a big mess, and then it's not getting fun anymore. And so I think, as an entrepreneur, you need to be very careful finding the right people and onboarding shareholders, especially.
So talent, team, and persistence within the vision, maybe even.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for the summary.
Yeah. That's my job on this show. So I'm curious, if you could go back, I mean, what's one thing that that you wish you knew when you first founded mysupply that you now know today?
Oh, so how many hours do we have? So of course, so when I was building my first company, it was a consulting company. I think I know very well about how to grow the company and how this works out in consulting. But when I started mysupply, it was all completely different. And there's a lot, of course, what I would have done completely different. So of course, since then we all learned a lot. But of course, it's common knowledge somehow already that before you start something, you do not need to invest a lot of money. You can really do a lot really with mock-ups. You can just, without developing any software, you can just with basically click dummies and validating with a couple of customers, you get I think a much bigger, let's say, market proof and a much better market fit than you would normally. So that I received when I was developing a bit bigger MVP already. And this is, of course, more difficult. So before I'm going to start developing any software, I would really go on the mocking side for a longer time, really learning a lot with customers.
Right.
And when I really have an idea, then it's also possible maybe going a journey without any investment. So, but by just bootstrapping things, paying customers, of course, for the development is cost the key. If you can make that happen, this is, of course, the best way to go. I was unable to do that, and I failed to do that, basically. So this is, of course, something I would, in any case, do very, very different than I did it with mysupply.
And I mean, the fact is, that early validation and ensuring that you're building the product to reach not only MVP, but the inevitable product market fit. It's so important. And those early adopters, but also that early feedback is crucial in being able to do so. So that's really great insight. Now, I'd love to switch over to a topic and a theme that we are really excited to talk to you about, which is, in fact, autonomous sourcing. And I'm curious, within this space, how do you believe exactly that autonomous sourcing will change the way that procurement pros work?
I think it will change absolutely a lot. So I nearly never hear that in procurement we have too much people. So there's always enough work.
Right.
But in procurement, there's also not only really cool work to do. There's also work to do which is nasty, which is repeating, which is maybe, especially in sourcing. So let's say someone from procurement who is just sending out a tender to 3-4 suppliers, receiving offers, checking back with the requestor, what do you want? The requestor picks one, and the procurement guy will call the guy and ask if he can get 3% off. So this is a very, very common process, but it doesn't make any sense. And I think these kind of processes will change a lot. So there are so many interesting things, especially in procurement and sourcing, what you can do, especially during those days. You need to build new relationships to suppliers. You have a lot to do, of course, let's say making your supply chain stable. But what we are going to do is using autonomous sourcing to really change this and really getting rid of all the repetitive work. Making, of course, changing in many parts, not everywhere, but in many parts, something which is very autonomous, because it could be all done with clever algorithms. So what we mainly do, of course, mainly in terms of negotiation. So we know about long days, there is game theory out there. So we just put it into algorithms. So normally game theory is just something that some procurement guys know about. And of course, also consultants who are, of course, doing it on a very, very high level. But it's not used in a big, let's say, spend area. So in the technical spend, there's nearly no game theory used. And bringing it into algorithms, it can help a lot to have very intelligent, let's say, processes and algorithms to turn these things in something autonomous, and which even can work much better than the current manual processes. So I'm very sure, if it's mysupply or not, that the future in sourcing would, at least for a mainly technical and tail spend area, pretty much autonomous.
It's an exciting space, nonetheless, and we hope, of course, that mysupply continues to make your headway in that space. There's a lot of technologies within the autonomous and automated sourcing space, a lot of subcategories, mainly so, of technology, including robotic process automation, chatbots, smart bidding, and others. I mean, which do you see of these technologies that will really be able to remove a lot of this human intervention, the manual tasks that you spoke about?
I think it's a combination of all those, what you just discussed. So it's not you just do just only bots. No, you just pick whatever works best. And of course, and this is normally what also someone from procurement does in terms of setting the right negotiation strategy. And
Right.
also tools needs to do that. So it's not just putting a bot on everything.
Right.
It's just, okay, of course, having the knowledge in a tool, first of all, to decide what is the best way to do. So, for example, we all work with auctions if we could, of course, if possible. We love to also work with bots, but we are also working on very much and also simplified negotiation methods that even can speed processes very much up and still do good negotiations. And there's a lot of different methodologies and different things which could be, from my perspective, should be just combined in a way that it works out in the end best. It's not just, it's about one thing. So bots are, of course, very powerful, but it's not the only thing in the world. And of course, this is also something that machine learning can help a lot to understand which technologies help the most.
And I'm happy that you brought up the topic of machine learning, because I want to talk a bit about the artificial intelligence that goes into automation. I mean, is there an importance of keeping human intelligence at the core of buying decisions, even when artificial or machine intelligence is really in charge of guiding those decisions?
The question is just for what? So there is, of course, things that humans can, of course, do much better than machines. For example, having the empathy, sometimes connecting the dots. Of course, maybe being a partner to the business and driving the business. So this is, of course, the role that humans can do much better in procurement than computers. But I just say everything what can be done by computers. So everything is about calculating, everything about algorithmic things, everything, let's say, which can be done by computers will be done by computers. And I think those things I just mentioned, of course, are very much more powerful if human beings, of course, who are really dealing with these topics, of course, have a much better power and much better leverage to change things, basically. And of course, this is sometimes also the role of procurement changes a lot. So when you, for example, ask someone maybe a bit older age, so what you like most about procurement, what can you do best in procurement? Maybe he would say, I'm a really good negotiator. But this is most likely not what will be the future of procurement. I think you will need those guys who are able to solve, let's say, problems and find solution, being a good partner for the business. This is a complete different profile how procurement worked in the past. Because things like negotiation, in my point of view, when it comes not to very, let's say, complex situations where we have, of course, difficulties to manage among several parties, this is a different game then. But this will not be the things that needs to be done all day long. So from my point of view, the role that procurement takes and how it works together with machines in a way will change a lot.
Great insights. I'm curious, because procurement teams are starting to apply autonomous technologies, whether that's for sourcing or operational purchasing and alike, or to really speed up processes internally. And I mean, it poses a great a great opportunity to procurement of tomorrow. I'm just curious, though, what exactly do you think that today procurement teams are maybe missing out on when it comes to autonomous sourcing?
Yeah, I think basically the journey just starts. So there is, of course, some let's say solutions out there which automate things mainly on procure to pay side, but still, of course, autonomous negotiations or autonomous sourcing is let's say still a very, very new topic, which is anything but common in companies. And they just, of course, many companies just need to get a perception about what can I do here? Does it make sense for us? And of course, it's currently a phase of a lot of learning. And I think the journey is just starting. I'm pretty sure when there is a few, of course, very known customers out there who really also want to talk about this and their experience. Of course, this will help a lot, of course, to speed things up. That's for sure. But of course, also speaking about the success of negotiations and also, let's say, lifting the possibilities and making it visible for everyone what they do in negotiations might be also a disadvantage. So maybe not everybody will like to do that, but I'm pretty sure there will be a lot of things will happen within the next 1 to 2 years. After many areas in procurement already have been automated a lot. So things will go to a bit more complicated areas like negotiations. Because this is a bit more advanced than just, let's say, automating procure to pay.
Right. And
purchase to pay.
The fact is, right, the machines need to continue to get smarter themselves. So that's also an element, of course. The technology itself is going to train itself better and mature over time. So I think that's also an aspect of it that's definitely going to be a driver. And I think that it poses a lot of exciting opportunities for the future.
Yeah, but I think also the systems are there. This is not the problem anymore. It's just we don't miss possibilities in using AI. So this is all there. So the techniques are there. So what AWS is doing is incredible. So there are so many great solutions. It's just really having the product, which is on the AI side. So the solution, the driver of the technology, which is just there. We just need to connect the dots to the sourcing side. Because, of course, other things sometimes in the past had a lot of priority. So when you look to sales, so there's already a lot out there which runs very well based on AI. But on procurement side, it's still just growing a lot. And there is still a high potential of using the existing technologies to turn things into something completely different.
Well, we hope that procurement will be able to leverage these great technologies that are continuing to mature, and mysupply being one of those that are a fantastic option out there on the market. So I thank you for your insights surrounding autonomous sourcing today, Andreas. And now I'd love to shift over to a segment of the session today that we do with all of our guests that literally has nothing to do with anything that we've talked about up to this point. It's a little bit of fun that we get to have together, a quick fire round where we're going to clear our minds and ask some quick questions that I would love one word or one sentence answers to, so the listeners out there can just get to know you a little bit better. Is that all right with you, Andreas?
I do my very best.
Sounds good. Now I'm curious. You're going on a vacation tomorrow. It's paid. Where are you heading?
It's paid where I'm heading.
It's already paid.
Yes. And I need to choose the location where I'm going.
You have to choose the location. Where are you heading?
I think I would love to go to the US again. I've not been there such a long time and I really miss it.
Cool. Anywhere in specifics in the US?
Yeah, so I love Florida, basically. Now, after the hurricane, it wasn't maybe not the best idea to go there now, but it's a lovely place to be, especially Anna Maria Island. I love to go there and have not been there such a long time. And yeah, it would be really lovely to see it again.
Cool. I'm curious, if you have one book you could recommend, what would it be?
Think Slow, Think Fast. I think you maybe heard about this. It's an amazing book where you learn a lot about different ways how people think, and it's a groundbreaking thing, and it's really it's really a lot of fun reading it. So I can really recommend it. I think it was written by Daniel Kahneman, as far as I remember, right? It's an amazing book. So it's absolutely worth it.
Great tip. And I'm curious, if you were going to eat dinner with one person, someone that is alive, and it could be anyone in the world, who would it be?
Well, good question. I honestly want to talk to Angela Merkel.
Right. Very cool. Very cool. I think just about everybody would want to have a conversation with Angela Merkel, honestly.
Yeah. So this is, I think she has so many interesting insights, and if she's likes to share it with me, it would be of course, also very, very interesting one. So this is something which I need to put on the bucket list.
Well, it was great to get to know you a little bit better, Andreas, as well as get to know a little bit better about the ventures that you are currently involved in. If you have anything to plug for the listeners, where they can find you or some of the ventures that you're working in to go check out, please take the time to do so now.
Yeah. So, of course, if you're interested in learning something about what we do about autonomous sourcing and the journey we're heading to, you will find some information on mysupply.de/en for the English pages. And if you want to read a bit more about what we're doing with the ProcureTech network, and also see what other great solutions are there in the European market. So just look into seeing at ProcureTech.com. You will find also a lot of very interesting information there and great other solutions, great other startups, and it's always worth to look into this and see what they are doing. And might be there is something also for you inside of this network. So and of course for all the startups that maybe are listening also today, please join ProcureTech.com. It's for free. We would love to enrich our networks with cool other solution providers as startups. So just reach out and would be lovely to get in touch.
And we're a happy partner of ProcureTech ourselves at Kodiak Hub. And we thank you for what you're doing there, Andreas. You heard Andreas. Check out mysupply and ProcureTech at their respective websites. We appreciate you being on the show in this episode of The Way We Source. Thank you, Andreas.
Thank you so much, Sam, for having me.